I think Raja says that ceasefire, the summit, this is coming. Russia-Ukraine is going to end, and Trump is going to take credit for closing it. His opponents at home and abroad are calling him a stooge of Putin, and they say that the closing of the war leaves Putin with a win. Do you agree?
Um, well, I think, Barkha, that certainly it has been Trump's declared aim to bring this war to an end. We must understand it's part of his manifesto. He had declared that he's going to do it at this and the Hamas-Israel war, and he's going to fulfill his mandate. We just saw what he said on the Panama Canal. Now, BlackRock has already taken over those companies. The Hong Kong-based companies, Hutchison and so on, they've all been taken over by BlackRock. And what he said on Panama Canal has come true, despite Panama's all protestation. So he is going to steamroller his way into fulfilling his mandate. And I think on the Ukraine-Russia war, he's absolutely right, because it was the agreement between Ukraine and USA in November 2021, which actually specifically mentioned taking on Russia and the war, which actually forced Putin to go in. And America now recognizes that rather than insisting at all times on a unipolar world, they are willing to make America great again, so that they deservedly get that position. But now in the meanwhile, they have to live in a multipolar world. And we must think of another aspect also, that if Putin is able to work with Trump on ending the war, the Russia-China relationship also goes in for a reset. And I think that's very important for the world, and certainly for Russia, because Russia is very uncomfortable in the second rung position in the China-Russia setup. And now with Russia having got the support of Putin on ending the war, is going to be very big. And I think it's natural for Russia and the European Union, for all of Europe to work together rather than to be at loggerheads as they were in World War I and World War II. So I think both those world wars showed us that Europe has to live together. They have to learn to work together. And I think this is an important message, despite that summit that Prime Minister Keir Starmer had in London, bringing all those leaders together, saying we are going to take them on, we've got $800 billion and whatnot. No, I think that's all very impractical and impossible without US support. So I fully support what President Trump is doing on ending the Russia-Ukraine war, and I think it will happen.
I have many questions on China, so I'm going to address them separately. But I just want to, before I bring in Tavleen, what Ambassador Sikri is talking about is the BlackRock-led group is now going to take over 90% of the Panama Ports company, and Trump has said that is the beginning of America reclaiming the canal. By the way, if we are saying Trump is going to do everything he said he's going to do, he has also said that one way or the other we're going to get Greenland. So I just want to put that on the table. God only knows what's happening and coming next. We don't know. Tavleen, Putin, I know you're not a fan. That's an understatement. And you do believe that this will leave Putin with the last laugh.
Yeah, well, Ambassador Sikri is an Indian bureaucrat, and Indian bureaucrats have a very cynical worldview until it comes to India. Let's see how you react when Pakistan walks into Kashmir or China walks into Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh. And then we're going to say, oh, no, you can't do that. I believe that there were rules set after Yalta, and that those rules should apply until there's a new set of rules. I really don't think that Putin, can be in any way supported in what he did. He was a dictator. He marched into a democratic country and destroyed it virtually. If we're going to say that everything is fair game, we can go in that Pakistan and China can collude to take over China can take over Taiwan, and they can collude to take over the Kashmir Valley and Arunachal Pradesh. What are we talking about? Would we react the same way? No, the Indian bureaucrat then would start having all sorts of other, No, 1 minute. The Indian bureaucracy has been cynical about the Russia-Ukraine thing from day one. They have not at one point said what Putin did was wrong. Let's at least begin with that. What Putin did was wrong, and he has caused terrible suffering that would have been avoided. Why didn't he negotiate then if he's so keen on negotiating? Why wasn't there a negotiation before the war? Why not?
Okay.
You could have said, I don't want, I'm frightened of Ukraine going into NATO and all that. So I don't buy any of that sort of thing. And please, let's think about India, right? We are vulnerable on this.
Okay.
China wants to change our borders. from the beginning of India's independence. Are we going to deal with it? So, if China taking over Tibet is fine. Everything is fine.
So, Ambassador Sikri, I want you to respond to both of these arguments. Tavleen saying bureaucrats are just cynical, except when it comes to us. Raja saying that it will come to us if America remains so hands off.
Look, first of all, bureaucrats are not cynical. Bureaucrats are pragmatic and realistic. And we have to base ourselves on our own experiences, on India's experiences with various countries, how they've dealt with us, how they've supported us, how the bilateral relationship has worked and developed and benefited both sides. So please, let's take into account the history of what has been happening in India's relationship with all countries of the world, one by one. India follows a policy of strategic autonomy, and it has served us very well. And I think we are fully within our rights to follow that policy. And it is a policy respected now by all countries of the world. And many countries have gone also talking about doing strategic autonomy of their own. So please, I think it's not cynicism at all. Secondly, I think let us not look only at the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine on this particular date. Please, let's look at the history of it. Let's look at the Minsk agreements, which were never followed, which were agreed in 2014. Please look at the agreement by America given to Russia, the guarantee that NATO will not move an inch eastward after the reunification of Germany. Please look at all the list of broken agreements and how Putin had made a statement on this much, much earlier, saying how their red lines, he had pointed out to Russian red lines. He's written wrong articles on the history of Ukraine. He's written wrong, pieces on how they are being threatened by Ukraine, by NATO moving rapidly eastward, and Ukraine being absorbed into NATO would be absolutely unacceptable to Russia. So please, let's look at the history of this conflict and let's not look at the outcome of when Russia invaded Ukraine. That was just an outcome of this conflict of many decades of non-fulfillment of guarantees given by the Western powers to Russia, and that how he was actually forced into doing this because it was an existential threat for Russia. So I think we have to recognize these factors. And you talk about Crimea. Now, Crimea was always a part of Russia. It was given by Khrushchev to Ukraine because Khrushchev happened to be from Ukraine, and he just gifted it to the Crimea to Ukraine, as saying, okay, now you take it as a part of you. That doesn't mean that historically Crimea was a part of Ukraine. It was always a part of Russia. So I think we have to look at the history in this regard. We have to look at the history of how the bilateral relationship, the multilateral relationship between the NATO powers and Russia, the Warsaw Pact, of course, evaporated. Russia, the way the relationship developed, and specifically there was an agreement in 2014. Was never fulfilled.
But I think the point being made is it's not only about Russia and Ukraine. It is about the Americans now taking the position that what's happening in the rest of the world is not our problem. And if that means territorial lines can be redrawn, so be it. We're not going to get involved. I think that's what, at least that's what Raja is flagging.
No,
right?
I think that yes, it is true that President Trump is hinting at that, and his key members like Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz have been giving indication of that. But we do know that, for example, President Trump is very concerned about counterterrorism. He's very concerned about radicalization. He's already ordered bombings in South Sudan. I think other places where he is worried about the radicalized groups and others wanting to take over the country. So it's not that President Trump has changed that policy. He's always going to be on these issues. And you mentioned Pakistan, for example. We know that Pakistan is terrorism central. And that is why, just like Osama bin Laden was hiding there, this guy, Kabul airport bomber.
But he's praising them. He's not saying he was hiding there. He's saying, hey, well done, Pakistan, right?
No,
he's saying, well done, Pakistan. Thank you.
You gave him back to us, just like after Osama bin Laden was killed. I mean, it was well known that Pakistan has helped the Americans to come and get Osama bin Laden because that was part of the whole strategy.
Okay. Let me get reactions. Tavleen and Raja both want to come in. Tavleen, go ahead, and then Raja. Yeah.
Did not help bin Laden, Madam Ambassador. They had to send a Black Hawk expedition, and Pakistan was kept out of the loop. Pakistan was hiding Osama. In this case, they have done a different thing. I mean, you cannot say Pakistan colluded with America to give them Osama bin Laden. That I can't believe you said that. Why was there a need for a midnight raid on that house and Osama taken out, his body thrown into the ocean? If Pakistan was cooperating, where was the need for all this? He was hiding in a Pakistani cantonment. So, I mean, I don't agree with that. But, what really worries me is Putin is not just, I mean, expansionist. Look what he's doing within Russia. Look what he did to Alexei Navalny. I mean, just look, I mean, if Trump is going to overlook all these things in the interest of just, recreating a world order in his own idea, he's going to overlook everything then. He will overlook every dictator's atrocities. And, to me, that's a very scary world that we're going to end up living in.